Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual free thinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Nancy Reed, your worship associate for this morning. And the service today is being led by our minister, Eileen Casey Campbell. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We will plan on continuing this hybrid worship through the church year. So you can join us each week here in person on Zoom or later on YouTube if you prefer. And our first announcement will come from our minister, who will explain how this service is going to go today.
Good morning. Just a little bit about how the service is going to go today. This morning includes a special water communion ritual, which is an annual ritual for us at this in-gathering service, our first service of the church program year. And some of you have brought water to share in our water communion. That's great. If you're starting to worry about forgetting to do the homework assignment on the first day of school, you can go ahead and forgive your inner child. We have water at the front for anyone to use, left over from last year's water communion. If you are at home, you can feel free to go ahead and grab some water and an empty bowl to put in front of you for later in the service. Because it's water communion, our normal joys and sorrows time will not be part of this service. So if you have something big on your heart that you really need to talk about before next week, we invite you to seek out a member of the pastoral care team. Team members, if you're here or on Zoom, will you wave a hand around so folks can see who you are? The team includes Nancy Reed, Pat Mells, Scobie Beer, Kevin House, and myself. And so if you have something big on your heart you need to talk about, you can find any one of us after the service or in the chat thread on Zoom. Next week, you may have noticed when you came in, our Joys and Sorrows time will look slightly different, just in that the cards we've been filling out for a couple of years now are at the back of the sanctuary. You can fill one out right when you come in, or if something comes up for you in the middle of the service, you can feel free to move to the back and fill one out. And they'll get collected in the basket as people come in the door instead of from their seats. We'll go over that again next week, because I'm sure lots of us will forget and new folks will be here.
So if this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway. And whether it's your first visit or your 1,000th, we're glad you came. We've heard most of the announcements. Are there any other announcements for the good of the community? Oh, I should mention that the children will stay with us for the service. This is a family service today. And also there'll be a potluck afterwards, and I hope you can join us, whether or not you brought something. There's always a lot of people, even if there isn't a lot of food. Yes, Brandon.
I just wanted to announce that we have our board meeting coming up this Wednesday, so if there's any things that you'd like the board to think about or review as we're looking at this new year, please reach out to me. You can email me. That contact information should be in the chalice. We might be adjusting the day of our meeting. We'll let everyone know through the chalice as well if we end up switching to the weekend. So 7 o'clock Wednesday evening.
In case folks at home couldn't hear, the board meeting is 7 o'clock Wednesday night here. If you have anything you want to bring before the board, reach out to...
It's in Zoom.
Oh, yes, all right, on Zoom. Reach out to Brandon Steele. Thank you. And as Eileen already mentioned, we won't have Joys and Sorrows today. As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and other devices. We now enter a space of worship. Orin Steele said he will help with the chalice lighting. If you will come up now, please. If you'll join me in our chalice lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together.
If you're interested in being a chalice lighter or doing another helper job, looking at you, Elliot, when you come in now, you might see that there are some helper cards on the board, on the welcome board, right as you walk into the sanctuary space. And if there's a job that needs doing, green jobs are for all ages, boring black type is for adults only, you can take a job down and put it in the drawer, and that's how you claim it. So you might see next week that there are some helpers needed, and you can choose to be a helper in that way.
Can I just interrupt? Is there a way to get less smoke? Because I did have a service interrupted by the fire alarm.
That's a good question that I don't know the answer
It's
to.
really pumping out smoke.
Maybe we just do a
Maybe we could just
tea
do a
light.
candle?
Okay. Nancy's going to change us over to just a tea light because while it's hot, I don't think we can adjust the length of the wick. Okay. You know, the fire of commitment burns in our hearts, whether we have a flame lit or not, even though it might be a little UU heresy to say so. Have you ever started a project, what you thought would be one project that actually turned out to be 27 projects wrapped into one? What I did for my summer vacation, my own kid is raising his hand, yes. What I did for my summer vacation was renovated our bathroom. And at first I thought I was just going to refresh the paint, which is only 3/4 of a wall of paint. The rest is tile. And then pull up the old peel and stick vinyl flooring that was deteriorating and put down some new easy, quick flooring. That's what I thought going in, just a cosmetic refresh. Well, when I started painting, I realized I had to take the wall light sconces off the wall. And that they would also probably need to be painted since the paint on those was chipping and probably lead-based. And as I took them off, I realized that these 100-year-old light fixtures were literally hanging on by a thread in kind of a dangerous way, and that I was going to have to figure out how to rewire the wall sconces. And then as I pulled up the flooring, I realized there was old tile underneath and also some other stuff that shouldn't have been there, and the floor was not level, and none of the walls were square in this 100-year-old house. And also that as I turned off the water to the toilet to move it, that plumbing was also hanging by a thread and couldn't be turned off all the way without breaking and needing to be fully replaced. And then each time this happened, myself sort of hanging by a thread, would look around and think, well, who's going to deal with this? I don't know how to rewire a wall sconce. And then I'd look around this tiny 10 by 10 bathroom and realize it was just me in here. I was going to have to deal with this. I was going to have to become somebody who knew how to rewire a wall sconce and then actually tile a floor, not just stick vinyl onto it, after making sure it was level and then also squaring all the tiles. And I was going to have to become somebody who knew how to cut tile, and I was going to have to become somebody who knew what grout was, more than just in the kind of vague way you know what grout is by living in a home with grout in it. And I was going to have to become somebody who knew how to replumb a toilet and what it is that holds the bottom of a toilet together. It's just a piece of wax. Did you know this? I know this now because I had to become that somebody who knew how to do the things because it was just me there in that little bathroom figuring it out by myself. And I think sometimes that's why we come to church. Because, listen, some of us have had to become somebody who knows how to fix the plumbing in the church sink. Looking at you, Brandon, thank you very much. But really, I think we come to church because we look around at the world and see that so much of it is broken or hurting and in need of repair. And it's just us here. And we have to become the somebodies who know how to fix these things, who, if we don't know how to help heal the world, become somebody who figures it out. And we figure it out together. We step up because it's just us here, and together figure out how to be the ones that the world is waiting for. I'm so glad I'm here with just us, with all of you together. And I invite you to join with me as we begin our service in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 4 in the gray hymnal. Now it's time for a story. If you'd like to come up a little closer and sit down in front to hear the story, come on up now or at any time during the story. You are free to move your body and wiggle around as you need to as you listen. The story today goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a little stream that dreamed of flowing to the sea. The stream came from a huge pool of water underground. When one day the stream felt so strong that she pushed her way up through the earth and began her journey toward the sea. The little stream flowed along. You know how some streams are. First she babbled to all the rocks in the stream bed. She was a delight to them. And then she began to run fast and deep. "Come along, fish," she cried as she carried them swiftly. Sometimes she tumbled over cliffs and churned up foam at the bottom before she raced right along. "Oh, look at me," she thought. "I am mighty." She told the boulders and the cliffs how mighty she was, and they were quite impressed. One day she came to a great lake that was cool and deep, but she flowed out of it as a river again and continued on her way to the sea. And then one day she came to a vast desert, and at the edge of it, she pooled into a brackish mud. "Woe is me," thought the little stream. "Now I'll never get to the sea." She sat there for what seemed like a long time. until she began to hear a voice. Just a quiet whisper she heard. "I can take you to the sea, little stream." It was the wind whispering to her. "Come with me, little stream. I'll carry you to the ocean." "How could you do that?" scoffed the stream, now mud pool. "You're only made of air." "I can carry you on a breeze," whispered the wind, "but you must be very, very brave, or you must let go of yourself and change completely." "Pish posh, I've changed many times," said the stream. "Yes, but this one will be different," whispered the wind. The little stream wondered at the voice of the wind. She looked at the desert before her. She remembered her dream to go to the sea. She took a deep breath. And then she let the wind pick her up bit by bit. And so the stream became a wisp of vapor lifting into the air. "Wait a minute," she called out. "What's happening to me? This is not the way to the sea." And the wind just said, whoosh. The little stream looked around her as she rose higher and higher. She looked about in the air and she saw other wisps of water vapor. And somehow seeing them comforted her. She looked out and could see the whole world laid out below her. In the far-off distance, she saw the hillside where she had once burst through and pushed her way through nooks and cracks of the earth. She could see her old stream bed and way down to the pebbles that were now worn smooth after she rolled over them for so many years. She saw the cliff she had once tumbled over, and little particles of water changed to mist and climbed in the air from that cliff to join her. She saw the great lakes where the sun warmed the water, sending wisps of vapor up all the time to join the stream. And then she saw the huge expanse of desert in front of her. Beyond the desert was a range of mountains that were very tall and very steep. And beyond the mountains, she could see something shimmering, reaching all the way across the horizon. It was the sea. And while the wind blew, the stream, now vapor, together with other wisps of cloud, formed a shape together. Together, the cloud floated across the vast desert, up and over the mountain tops where the air was cold. In the cold air, the bits of water in the cloud began to come together and turn into droplets. They turned into rain. They started falling and landing on the other side of the mountain. They all ran together into a strong river and rushed down the mountainside to the sea. And the ocean currents pulled at the river, drawing it out into the wide, wide sea. There the little stream rocked back and forth in the waves. It was not what she had expected it to be, but she found peace in it and strength. She knew she could rest here for a long while, and she knew she could travel on the wind again. She knew she could always return if she was willing to be changed. And this is the end of our story.
And now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week we would like to spotlight and thank a group or committee that makes our church work. And today I want to thank the wonderful group of volunteer men and women from our congregation who have taken turns going down to be with our children, our young people, and our religious education community. I'll be reaching out in the next few weeks to see if I can find some volunteers to do that this week. I also want to thank our wonderful group of children who keep coming and bringing us joy, and it works down there. So I hope you will, if I call you, you will say yes. And if I don't call you, you call me. Thank you. 1/4 of our plate collection for the harvest season is going to go to Ganondagan State Historic Site. a National Historic Landmark and the only New York State historic site dedicated to a Native American theme. The culture, art, agriculture, and government of the Seneca people influenced our modern understanding of equality, democratic government, women's rights, ecology, and natural food. You can give to this morning's offering by placing a cash or check into the basket or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering, and we will gladly now accept the offering.
I invite you now into a time of centering and meditation, followed by some shared silence. Let us remind ourselves that by silence, of course, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to each other so that we can listen more closely to the sounds of life, the sounds of our children wiggling and giggling, to the sounds of our neighbors driving past on the road outside, the birds in the trees, to the sounds of the person beside us breathing in their seat, to the beating of our own hearts. I invite you to get comfortable where you sit. Maybe let some piece of you find the ground beneath you. Perhaps your eyes fall closed, your shoulders fall away from your ears, and start to breathe deeply. This moment is calling, and I look side to side, wondering who will answer. The tide of injustice rises up to our necks, movements of oppression gathering strength. The earth is on fire, and we are waiting for someone to do something. Fix it. Save us. We are waiting and watching, eyes skyward, looking for the weather to change, forgetting, maybe a little on purpose even, that it's just us. If clouds must gather and rain need fall, it's us who must let go of the solid ground we know, cling to one another, discover our power, become the storm. Let us breathe in the silence here. Do you know that old proverb, you can't step in the same river twice? Yeah, this is a different church than the one you joined. Even if you just joined like a year ago, this is a different church. This is a different church than the one you came to last week. Communities like ours who contain many generations and ideally last for many generations tend to move through time in circles, in cycles. And there's a grief in that because we can't step into the same church twice. This is a body always changing, always shifting, cycling, growing. And there is a joy in that too. There is a power in that. We get to experience time differently when we come together in this way. We build and grow and move toward a shared vision generationally. And then we reach these moments of transformation where we meet the opportunity to conjure a new vision to grow toward. When we practice thinking differently about time in our communities, if we're diligent and also a little bit lucky, we're able to respond to the times of our wider world differently as well. And we are living in times that I think we can say without too much hubris are unprecedented. We're still living with the fallout of a pandemic whose impact will shape the next century. Global capitalism is teetering on the edge as the gap between rich and poor is wider than it ever has been in human history. We are watching the climate crisis intensify every year. And as a result of all of that, we are seeing the resurgence of a fascist ideology that had begun to become popular 100 years ago. And I don't know about all of you, but I'm thinking a lot about Paul Tillich. I do know about all of you. I know you're not thinking about Paul Tillich. Maybe now you're thinking, who the heck is Paul Tillich? But you probably haven't been, if I'm being really fair. Well, I'm here to tell you who the heck Paul Tillich was. He was a German Christian theologian in the early 20th century, thinking and writing during a time when the global economy had just collapsed, just after a massive war and a worldwide pandemic, in a nation, Germany, with a surging interest in fascist ideology. Sound a little bit familiar? You see why I'm thinking about Paul Tillich. And he was thinking about time. He was writing about time. He was writing his PhD thesis about time and the theology of time. He was thinking about what the Christian scriptures meant when they went on and on about the fulfillment of time, as we read it in English, and about how people of faith should react when it seems like time is building to a pivotal moment, a point of no return, a moment that holds the possibility of transformation before destruction becomes inevitable, a moment that he called the inbreaking of spirit. And he called this concept kairos, a sense of time that is not chronological, right, from the Greek chronos, but instead that is from the Greek kairos. So it's not linear, but a single moment that holds all of eternity within it. That's how Paul Tillich was thinking about time. A moment that the gospel translators have called the fulfillment of time. That's that word kairos. Gets translated into English as the fulfillment of time. A moment that holds all possibility. It's not a concept that's novel to Christianity, even though Paul Tillich was writing in that context. And as part of the OG Antifa, Tillich was purposely integrating Jewish thought into his theology. His Jewish contemporaries were writing about the idea of Sabbath as the opportunity to experience eternity in a time set apart from linear chronology. We see this theology emerging in Buddhism, too, about the eternity held within a single moment of presence. And we are entering a time now, as a community and as a wider world, I believe, that holds this possibility of great transformation. And I know that I have some niche interests. I don't think we all need to start reading 20th century German theologians to understand our present moment. If you're interested in that, though, boy, do I have a reading list for you. It is going to be the smallest book club you ever joined. But I do think this little tidbit from Paul Tillich is useful to all of us. Religious community has an understanding of the movement of time that other communities and organizations, shorter lived, more individual communities and organizations do not. We have an understanding that we can utilize. Churches have longevity, not just in their length as an institution, but in their membership, in a way that other organizations and communities are missing it. We have longevity as a community to see and respond to the cycles of time, if we're paying attention. And it is time now, don't you think? Time to consider that if we look around and see ourselves moving toward a moment of possibility, that the church has a role to play in that. That if we think of ourselves as that little stream pooled in a brackish mud, reluctant to let go of what we once knew, to be transformed so that we can be part of a world transformed. If we stay in that brackish, muddy swamp, then we are missing our calling as a church. Because it is time for us to make moves. It's time for us to become the people who respond to this moment. And I know you might be thinking, how do we do that? How do we meet the moment? How do we meet this moment of possibility and transformation? And I am here to say to you, I don't know. But I didn't know how to retile a bathroom. And I didn't know how to rewire a wall sconce. And we don't know how to meet this moment where there is the possibility of transformation, where we sit at the edge of possibility. But I know that we are a community that can become people who know. We can become the people who know and who do what is required of us in this moment. And it is time for us to be part of the inbreaking of spirit, to move this moment toward this moment in time for potential transformation, to be part of the transformation that's held in this moment by gathering up the courage to be transformed ourselves, to become the people who are ready to meet the moment. May we be so brave, and amen. I want to invite you, in the spirit of that courage, to participate in our water communion this morning. I invite you to join in this ritual, whether you brought some water with you from a special source, or whether you use the water in the vases on the table from past water communions. Join with us here in our sanctuary, and join with us if you're worshiping at home on Zoom. So let's start with a breath. Let your gaze fall to your hands or your container of water, and allow your eyes to soften. Allow your breath to slow and draw focus inward. Listen for that voice that sings in the deep well of your soul. You know what is held in your own heart. You might choose to honor one of three big feelings today with your water: a sense of drought within you, the feeling of a swirling storm, or the awareness of calm and stillness. So if you listen now and find that your heart is in a drought, in need of refreshment and renewal, if the far corners of your soul have gone unwatered for too long, and labor or loneliness or grief has sapped life from the ground of your being, then I invite you to come forward and pour water into the bowl now and feel the nourishment of this common water. Feel the gifts of the earth spilling over for you. If you are feeling a drought in your heart, come forward with your water now. If you listen within and hear that you are in the storm, the upheaval of wild winds blowing you in every direction, if the squalls of injustice or disease or sorrow threaten to submerge you, pour some water into the bowl now. Pour and feel relief from the frenzy of the storm, a strong foundation here to hold you. If you feel a storm in your heart this morning, I invite you forward to pour some water in our bowl. If you listen within and discover calm waters, waters that glimmer in the light and reflect truth back to you, waters that heal and hold and lift you buoyant in all the goodness of love and life, pour some water in the bowl now. Pour in gratitude for the calm and abundance within you, for a place to return to in times of need. If you find calm in your heart, come forward now. May these waters, the combined gifts and needs of all of us, remind us that alone we are just a drop, but together we make a whole and holy ocean. When we come together as many waters in one vessel, we can meet the moment of transformation with clarity and courage. May it be so.
Fetch
Friends, may we be like drops of water, always seeking one another, always ready to be changed. Will you rise in body or in spirit and join together in singing our closing hymn, number 100?
And now will you please join me with our chalice lighting our words for extinguishing the chalice, extinguishing the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.